What is the most outlandish, hilarious, surprising thing you have ever seen go down in public? Was having a new exhaust put onto my Subaru by a small specialty shop in Buffalo, New York. We dropped it off and then said we would just go walk around for a couple hours till it was done. Staff advised us not to as it was a rough area. We were 19 and from Canada. What's the worst that could happen? After walking through a couple blocks of burnt out hoses and straight out of the movies for us ghetto with decided to turn around and get back to the shop as soon as possible. We walk around a corner only to see a group of 5 large, thuggish looking young black men ahead of us. They notice us, turn and walk in our direction. Instant brick shitting. Do we run? Do we plead for our lives? We decide to do the Canadian thing and just keep walking like nothing's going to happen. The gang reaches us after a few seconds, kind of does a half circle around the two of us. There is no escape, only robbery or death. What appears to be the leader makes contact. Yo, we got a question for you guys. We sheepishly reply yay. What's the plural form of penis? Penises. I think so. One of the other gang members blurts out, see, I told you, man. As they all kind of laugh and thank us. Tell us to have a good day. That is my only encounter with American street youth. So I was loitering with a couple friends in a little village style outdoor mall that's pretty popular in my city. Without warning, a massive group of people turned the corner onto the street and started walking down it together at a brisk pace. Not a flash mob, no one's shirtless. Just a group of what had to be 300 or 400 people all walking together. And as they're walking, the ones on the fringes of the train are calling out to pass us by to join in. There's no indication of where the group is going or why. And no one is explaining themselves or holding signs or anything. We are near the end of the street, watching more and more people latch onto the group out of sheer curiosity as it moves en masse towards us. And I said, duck it, let's go. So we tacked onto the side of the train and followed it for 10 minutes or so into the heart of the mall, where there's a small park with a sculpture garden and a fountain. By that point there were way too many people to come close to fitting in the park. I would estimate at least a goddamn 1,000 packed together. The guy who was leading the parade approached this young woman who was sitting on one of the benches there, who was looking pretty bewildered at being surrounded by hundreds of strangers. Another young guy who was with him, sort of a ringleader type, turned to face us as a group and started to shout, "Sing lean on me," with no idea what was going on. The rest of the group joined in until there were enough people to fill an auditorium all singing "Lean on Me" together to this complete stranger of a girl in the park. We got about a minute into the end of the second chorus before the guy's friend shushed us by raising both hands, and everyone went dead silent. Then the guy who was leading the parade got on one knee and proposed to the girl. She said yes. Everyone cheered and dispersed, more or less. It's one of my favorite memories. Just because of the sense of being part of something greater. For no reason, except that we were all human, with no idea where we were going or why. We still joined the parade of people and sang to this guy's wife to be, because it was a good thing to do. Too long didn't read I'd join a man's spontaneous flash mob to help terrify the woman he loves. A chick got arrested at a concert because she was blowing random guys. I don't think she was drunk or on drugs, but she would just go up to a guy and unzip his pants and pretty much SCK hissed and spit out the load. A few minutes later, she'd go up to another guy until 40 minutes later 3 police officers came and arrested her after people were complaining. 3 police officers came. I worked at Check Into Cash for a little while. I was running a field call. That's where I go to the people's house to collect the money when they were late or skipped out. Anyways, I went to the projects. I turned a corner and the next thing I know this skinny black chick falls out of the window with no clothes on. Shortly after that a big black lady comes out with a toaster and throws it at the naked lady running away. A skinny white naked dude comes flying out of the house as well. The big black lady turns around and kicks the white dude in the nuts. Everyone went back inside. The lady I needed to see was directly above them. Laughing, she says, "That happens all the time." Saw a homeless man park his shopping cart between 2 parked cars on the side of the street. Then he walked out into the middle of the 4-lane street and took a shit. Got out of a movie in downtown Paris Sound. All of a sudden a snowball fight breaks out between the moviegoers and the bar across the street. Had to be a good 20 to 30 people tossing snowballs across the street. People were using parked cars for cover and sneak attacks. People who weren't involved would get hit and join in. My girlfriend at the time was hiding in a storefront door when some old man threw a snowball right at her face. This went on for over a half hour. Even cars that were driving down the street were getting pelted from both sides. It was the greatest random occurrence I've ever experienced. Was outside smoking at a huge university by myself at about 4 AM when I see a deer running down the middle of the road. The noise of it running against the pavement was super bizarre. Next, a pickup truck comes barreling after it. The deer runs onto the campus lawns and the truck jumps the curb and follows it through the yards. I run after. Got to see what this is about. And by the time I get to where the truck had eventually stopped, the deer was nowhere in sight. 4 guys were standing outside the truck yelling at each other. I sort of duck behind this bush area and run into a guy who was ducking there, doing the same thing as me. We kinda looked at each other, shrugged, and kept watching. These guys look university age, yelling about guns, fighting, shooting each other. The guy in the bushes with me starts to make moves to get closer to the action, and the 4 guys see him. They start to walk over. I'm terrified, and they see me. They are marching over, confident, like they are going to murder me. And one guy, huge black guy, comes right up to me and picks me up in a hug and sort of just sways left to right with me in his arms, saying, "We were just kidding. We were just kidding." He set me back down, and the 4 of them walk calmly back to their truck and drive away. I really have no explanation for any of it. Too long didn't read deer. Truck follows it through campus. Confronted by huge black man. Comforted by huge black man. I was driving out in the boonies and I saw a man towing a late 80s Honda with another late 80s Honda. Now this wasn't such an odd thing to see in the area. If you couldn't afford the tow truck, you just got a buddy, some rope and another car. As long as you always braked carefully and slowly, the guy behind could also brake, and the bumpers would only touch a bit. There would be some scratches, but nothing you couldn't live with. This man was doing this task solo though. Also not unheard of, but it just requires even more caution with braking. Brake slightly so the car behind you contacts the bumper, and then slowly apply the brakes even more. I'm not sure how long the man had been doing this for, but he was going about 45 miles per hour, so he must have been pretty confident in his abilities. However, when the deer leaped out into the road, his reflexes took over and he slammed on the brakes, leaving the second car to slam into his first car. He was fine and missed the deer, but both cars were totaled. Too long didn't read man rear ends himself with his other car. I got beat up in grade school for touching a kid's bike. I had never touched anybody's bike and didn't know the kid. It happened in a pretty public and crowded time of day at the school, meaning that it was at the end of the day when all the parents were picking up their kids after school. My mom watched it happen as she had pulled up just as it was happening. She got out and chased the kid off just as he was already finishing his batshit crazy tirade about how he thought I was going to steal his bike. This wasn't the crazy part. The crazy part was after the kid ran off. He hopped on his bike and started riding away. Another mom, I didn't know who she was because her kid wasn't in my grade, saw the fight and subsequently chased down the kid when he ran off in front of tons of other moms and maybe a couple of dads and plenty of kids in the school. She tackled the kid down, picked him up by the collar of his shirt, and carried him into the school to confront the principal. Most badass mom I have ever known. And I never even got to learn her name. So, if anyone knows of a woman who lived in Lawton, Oklahoma in the late 90s and had a kid who went to Roosevelt Elementary, I want to thank her for what she did. The rest of that school year was awesome. And I'm pretty sure she may have nipped a bullying lifestyle for someone in the bud. Thanks, badass mom. One day my freshman year of college, I was walking back to my dorm from classes. Some guy in one of those green neon border suits goes sprinting past me. Alright, whatever. Not 30 seconds later, I crossed paths with a girl wearing typical scene punkish clothing. Fishnet stockings, plaid skirt, dark painted nails, etc. But she was also wearing a welder's mask with the visor down. Okay, things are a little odd now. Then, not 15 seconds later, some dude comes tearing ass in my direction on a bicycle. Dude had some place to be, except he's riding no handlebars, because he has a plate of sushi in one hand, and chopsticks in the other. He seemed to be quite in control of the situation, though, munching away while riding. Any one of those in isolation wouldn't have been much to remember. Even 2 on one trip wouldn't have been that crazy, but all 3 in such a short period of time has always stuck with me. Consider subscribing if you enjoyed this video, and if you want to see more of Reddit Universe.